Coming up on Tech News Today, a new ARM chip design has years of battery life. We'll explain how. Also, is the Apple television set in production? Maybe. And the most backwards digital upgrade scheme ever. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, March 13th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly, all streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
Sarah Lane's plane got delayed. That's what we get for promising she would be back here for the show at the end of the show yesterday. But we are very happy to be joined by Loyd Case, freelance writer and analyst of his brand new site. You figured, why not? Launch a new site.
Hello, Internet.
It's good to see you, Loyd.
Hi, good to be here.
So you launched uncertainty.com this week, I saw.
Right. That's my new, I was mixing too much tech stuff and personal stuff in the one blog that I had, so I thought I'd just split it off into two.
And your other blog is?
ImprobableInsights.com. And it's just going to be my personal blog.
Okay.
You can read about my kitchen stuff there.
All right.
If you care.
Good to know. Well, we're going to start off with something that maybe people don't care about, or maybe they do. It kind of depends what part of the industry they're in. But we mentioned briefly yesterday in our Newsview segment, because it had just happened, that Yahoo made good on their threat to sue Facebook by filing in the Northern District of California in San Jose a lawsuit over 10 patents, most of which focus on advertising, but they really strike at the heart of how social networks work. Facebook spokesman Jonathan Saw said that Facebook found out through the media that they were being sued. They said, quote, "We're disappointed that Yahoo, a longtime business partner of Facebook and a company that has substantially benefited from its association, has decided to resort to litigation." That is fairly safe. We're going to court. We're not going to say much else sort of talk. We've discussed previously on the show that Yahoo likely is picking on Facebook because they're in a pre-IPO situation. They have to remain quiet on a lot of things. This makes them a little more vulnerable to patent suits. They don't want it complicating their initial public offering. Yahoo did this to Google before Google went IPO, as we've mentioned. And Yahoo has the big stick. They have over 3,300 patents. Facebook apparently has only 160. So there's not much for Facebook to bargain with here. Yahoo is essentially going for the jugular. The thing is, this is really upsetting people in the industry who feel like Yahoo is being a bully and breaking the rules.
And there's that analyst, venture capitalist, Fred Wilson, saying that Yahoo's broken ranks and crossed the unspoken line, which is that web companies don't sue each other over bogus patent portfolios. These are his words.
The secret piece.
Yeah, and I think he also goes on to how he hates Yahoo and it's dead to him now. Yeah, I think that's kind of
you're not making that up.
Oh, that's actually
those are actually his words.
Those are the words. He hates Yahoo now, and they are dead to him. But I mean, like you said, Tom, I mean, Yahoo sued Google before it IPO'd. Ended up with, I think, like 2.7 million shares, which is bringing them lots of money. It's kind of important to them. The idea that Facebook wasn't contacted, I think, is a little. I'm sure that they did get contacted, but the news spreads a lot faster than a process server, I'd assume.
The process server was still in his Yahoo self-driving car.
Exactly. He's
doesn't self-drive.
Driven by himself.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, it's Yahoo being aggressive. I mean, this is a huge opportunity for Yahoo to have a nice chunk of Facebook or money or some kind of revenue stream for a long time. Now, are people calling them patent trolls? Yes, they are calling them patent trolls, although I still take issue with that phrase because Yahoo has a business of some kind beyond intellectual property.
Although Andy Baio, as one of those voices criticizing Yahoo, wrote a column for Wired where he says when Yahoo acquired Upcoming.org, which he created in 2005, they had a bonus program to get employees to participate in the patent incentive program and get Yahoo a bunch of patents. He resisted it, But Yahoo said, of course, we're never going to use these to go after people. It's defensive. You need to have a pile of patents to defend yourself these days. And so he went along with it. And now he feels betrayed. Now, obviously, different CEO, different company than it was in 2005 when his company was acquired. And he left there in 2007. But he feels wronged. Like they tricked him into helping them build up an arsenal to go after somebody like Facebook.
Well, that sounds like an argument of a lot of people when they help. Like, I wanted to save the world, and I think this is actually the plot of Iron Man. I wanted to save the world, and they weaponized my thing. Well, that happens, but, I feel bad for this guy. But, I think Yahoo's just in a desperate position right now. For a while it's been, what do you do? What is your company? What is your plan? How are you going to survive? And again, this is just an opportunity. And whether these things, I don't know if you can say, oh, we'll never use the patents you help us create. That seems like a really strange thing for a company to ever say to somebody, because what do you think? It seems a little naive to go, oh, yeah, I'll help you make this patent, and you'll never use it, right?
Well, no, they didn't say they wouldn't use it. They said they would only use it defensively, that they wouldn't go out and sue people.
They're defending their existence.
And that's what Fred Wilson is saying is like, this has been the understanding in the industry is we don't sue each other. We build up these patents because the system makes us have to, but there's sort of a secret peace between everybody, and it's just not done. It's not gentlemanly.
Well, Mark Cuban if you guys read Mark Cuban's blog, he really hates patents, and he says he hopes Yahoo beats the heck out of Facebook for this. And I know that sounds nuts. He wants Yahoo to sue for $50 billion, which would be about half the valuation of Facebook. The concept being that consumers would go, hey, those patent laws? They're crazy. You need to really pay attention to this. That's this kind of case, if Yahoo, when they are suing Facebook, if this goes all the way through instead of like a settlement or whatever. It could anger enough people to go, hey, look, those laws seem to be working in ways that maybe they shouldn't.
Yeah.
If it brings enough awareness to people that, look, this is happening, Yahoo's probably not making any friends with this at all.
One of the top stories on our subreddit today is this Tech Dirt story about why it's mathematically impossible to avoid infringing on software patents. Kind of a good timing, essentially, to bring this issue up. They are pointing to some work done by Tim Lee of Ars Technica and Christina Mulligan. And the quote they pull out is, we estimate it would take at least 2 million patent attorneys working full-time to consider whether all the software-producing firms have infringed any of the software patents issued in a typical year. Even if firms wanted to hire that many attorneys, they couldn't. There are only 40,000 registered patent attorneys and agents in the United States.
Yeah.
So something's out of whack.
Yeah, I think the thing is, this is like a basic flaw of, government in general. The idea is that you have notice by filing all these things. You can search for these patent filings. You can search for patents that were registered. But if you spent the man hours doing this, I guess versus like an algorithm or something, it's very difficult to go through this entire mass of patents. So it seems like there's a job opportunity, though. If you have a science degree and a law degree, go for be a patent attorney.
There's something else at play here internally inside of companies in that even if you wanted to not infringe, you're kind of not allowed to search for infringing patents because of the whole issue of punitive damages. If you lose a patent lawsuit and you didn't know you were infringing, you pay less than if you were knowledgeable about what patent you were infringing upon. That's
a great point. So it's in your best interest not to know and to go out and just infringe over stuff and go, hey.
Yeah, don't take that as legal advice. It's called due diligence. You're supposed to look this stuff up. And the thing is, if you did find that, hey, look, that company is doing something I wanted to do and I thought it seemed similar enough, one, because it's actually distilled into writing, you can come up with a method that's slightly different. You can patent your own. That's the first thing. Second thing is you can license that. Now, you go, hey, Motorola's got this patent. How about I pay you money for that? That's how it's supposed to work. This is not how it's actually working, but that's how it's supposed to work.
Right. And then we got a lot of people starting to cry, hey, copyright law is what we need for software, not patent law. And that leads into a whole different situation. But this is going to be the main effect of Yahoo suing Facebook over these patents is we're going to have a much bigger conversation about software patents, I think, for quite a while. Let's move on to the rumor mill.
First box in is an Apple box because we're going to be talking about Apple rumors.
Apple box.
Yeah. I think it's a restaurant around here.
Things you stand on.
Well, we were on a soapbox before Apple box now. Let's talk about Piper. There's a Jefferies analyst, Peter Misek. He wrote a note to investors talking about the mythical Apple television, not that little puck thing, but the actual giant television. He says that we expect commercial production in May/June with 2 to 5 million builds likely. We expect a launch in the fourth quarter. So this year we would see an Apple television based on a bunch of supply chain stuff he found out while he was in Asia.
Okay.
So there you go. We're going to get an Apple TV this year of some kind, apparently. Again, rumor mill. Then there's...
Why would Apple want to do that? I mean, the LCD TV business is tanking. I mean, Samsung's giving up its LCD business. It's the panel business. It's just a hugely cutthroat market right now. And they really want to get into that?
And would they bother making Apple TV like mild remodel part of the iPad announcement if they were just going to hit us with a television set 3 months later?
Did you expect it then? They would. Right, that's it's a little trickery. I would think if they were going to bother with the television production at all, it's because they have experience in getting good prices on displays. Quite honestly, I mean the thing is they have their own. Every laptop's got a display. Every iPad's got a display. And the iMacs have display. Everything has it, except the Mac Pro, right?
I find the Apple making a television set rumor, though, more believable than the 7.85-inch tablet rumor. But we got news on that front as well.
Let's get to that one. Okay, an unidentified Samsung official says to the Korea Times that Apple's going to release a 7.85-inch iPad by the end of the year. Now, why would that official know anything about that? Well, apparently Samsung would be providing the displays for them, because Samsung also has been rumored to be the sole provider of the new iPad display, because LG and Sharp just couldn't get their standards up to Apple's. And Bloomberg tried to contact all the companies, and they said nothing. So, yeah, so mini iPad and Samsung and Apple working together, even though they're suing each other on one side. It's like they're fighting with one hand, and they're like, give me money with the other.
Loyd, do you put any more credence in a 7.85-inch iPad?
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at this Kindle Fire on my desk. I think that could be the incentive for doing something like that.
It could be, but Apple has said over and over that they think that's a dead format.
Competition is a wonderful can change minds in a wonderful way.
We've never seen Apple say they'd never make a phone or they'd never put video on the iPad or the iPod.
Nobody wants to watch video on a small screen. I mean,
or the books are dead.
And they said, no 7-inch iPad, right? That's too small. Now, if the resolution is high enough, I think arguably they're going to say, well, this is why you need this device, because it fits in your bag, I guess. It's still pretty big at 7.85 inches, but the resolution could be high enough where you're like, that's actually pretty good.
Could call it an iPod Touch.
You could, or you could call it an iPad Mini or whatever silly name. I think somebody was discussing the idea of, I think it was during the iPad coverage that TWiT did, the idea of simplifying the name by calling it the new iPad and just calling it iPad. If there's a Mini out there, iPad Mini and iPad makes sense. So theories.
We said we'd never make a 7-inch iPad. So meet the 8-inch iPad Mini.
Right.
There you go. Technically true.
All right. Also, the other Apple news before we move on from that. Frank M. Fazio has launched a class action suit against Apple over Siri. We've mentioned this coming before. Apparently, it was filed earlier this March, claiming the feature can't understand directions, locate nearby stores, and often produces incorrect answers. Lawsuit asks for unspecified damages and says, in many of Apple's television advertisements, individuals are shown using Siri to make appointments, find restaurants, and even learn the guitar chords to classic rock songs or how to tie a tie. In the commercials, all of these tasks are done with ease with the assistance of Siri, a represented functionality contrary to the actual operating results and performance of Siri. Loyd, I hear you scoffing at this. Do you think it's silly?
I think at one level it is silly, but it does call out, these ads, which are pretty convincing, and yet people's experiences are different. I mean, go to the websites that mock Siri. They're hilarious.
Well, we borrowed Colin's iPhone 4S. I don't have one myself. I wanted to see if this worked, okay? Now, I've seen the ads, and even though Apple says it's a beta on their site, they don't say it's a beta during the ads, at least as far as I can tell.
Most of the ads, they don't.
But let's try some lines from the actual ad. What's this going? What's the traffic like around here?
Sorry, Colin. I can't do that.
What can't you do? Let's try that again. What's the traffic like around here?
What was that again?
I'm failing. Okay, good. Look at this. Is it going to be chilly in San Francisco this weekend?
No, it shouldn't be colder than 41 degrees in San Francisco.
Now, these are lines from the actual ad.
41 degrees is pretty chilly.
How many cups are in 12 ounces?
I can only answer one weather fact at a time. Colin. Sorry about
It's
that.
Colin's iPhone, by the way, so that's not a mess up. We just borrowed it.
Call me Rock God. That's from another ad.
From now on, I'll call you Rock God. Okay?
All right, that
Okay,
one worked.
so you know what? I mean, it's illegal.
You didn't realize you just changed Colin's iPhone to call him Rock
I'm sure you
God.
can change it back pretty easily. But yeah, so we saw some mixed results there. It's not rigged. We just did this right now. I actually had the traffic thing work other times, so it's inconsistent at best. The funny thing is, I see these lawsuits about ads not showing you what they actually do. Like, I would sue the heck out of whoever made my dishwasher. I've seen some great ads. Like, it's sparkling clean.
Or every burger I've ever ordered.
Oh, those look fantastic on air, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, and I don't think it's our job to get into the speculation of whether legally Mr. Fazio has a case of fraud in advertisements here necessarily, but do we think that he's got a case in the court of public opinion that Siri is being misrepresented?
I think a little bit. I mean, then again, I think every electronics thing looks misrepresented. Sequences shortened. Like, I want the sequences shortened version of that laptop.
Yeah.
That's much better.
Loyd, what do you think?
I think that I agree. It's more of a court of public opinion. Almost all these tech ads overstate in some way or another. But at the same time, it does seem kind of frivolous, I guess is a word. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to give legal advice, but it does seem a little bit excessive.
Yeah, I'm not sure that this is a lawsuit, in my opinion. Although, hey, class action lawsuits, great way to make money if you're a lawyer. But I agree that Siri doesn't live up to the expectations presented in the ads. In fact, they were talking about on Mac Break Weekly earlier today that it seems to have gotten worse over time as more and more people are using it. So it may be that the server's just getting swamped and they need to add some capacity. Apple has not historically been very good at network services. Think about Mobile Me. Think about a lot of the cloud problems that they've had in the past. So that doesn't terribly surprise me. In fact, what surprised me is that they touted Siri as a big advantage and still called it in beta. That's not very Apple-like either. Let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Netflix.com. If you would like to watch as many TV episodes and movies as you want for one price every month, it can save you time, money, and hassle. You can watch it on your Xbox 360, your PS3, your Nintendo Wii. You can watch it on your Apple TV, on your Roku box. You can watch it on your tablets, on your phones. Netflix is pretty much everywhere you go, and you don't have to take our word for it. Go see what the selection is like. See what shows are available there, what movies are there. They're even doing original series right now. They've got one called Lilyhammer. Check that out. See if it's for you for 30 days for free. Netflix.com/twit. Be sure to use that URL when you sign up. Or if you already have Netflix and you want to recommend it to a friend, give them that URL. It works for anybody. Netflix.com/twit. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. All right. We also mentioned top story yesterday, Twitter buying Posterous. We've got some more theorizing today about why that might have happened. Fast Company broke down for us that Posterous CEO founder Sachin Agarwal is now Twitter product manager, and that he worked at Apple almost 6 years as a senior software engineer, had background in video, helped build Final Cut Pro, and at Posterous, he oversaw product engineering and operations. A quote from him, "It's fitting to be going to the only company Apple chooses to integrate deeply with. Apple has definitely picked a side in social networking, and it's Twitter." That's kind of the key evidence here. They also point out that Chief Product Officer Brian Frank will become Mobile Partnership Product Manager at Twitter. Obviously, Twitter integrated on the mobile platform iOS. And the director of mobile engineering, Adam Huda, will now be the iOS engineer at Twitter. So it seems like what Twitter is getting with Posterous, and as we mentioned yesterday, they're leaving Posterous Spaces up and running for now. They're not retiring anything yet. But it seems like what they're getting is a team to work on deeper integration of Twitter into iOS.
Yeah, I took a look at this before because I've actually been using Posterous for years now. And I remember the CEO, founder, did work on Final Cut Pro. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of an odd thing to go from movies or production of movies into a blog. But this seems like it makes lots of sense that if you want to have a good in with Apple, which is not easy to get, just by picking up these people, you have a really interesting opportunity here. But I mean, Twitter obviously is all over iOS. It's also in the new version of OS 10. What is that? The Mountain Lion? Mm-hmm. Mountain Lion. There's the Twitter integration there. So actually, on the desktop front, it might be more interesting to see what this team can bring to the Twitter integration that's, going to be ending up on OS 10.
All right, let's move on to something I'm more excited about than Twitter integration with iOS. ARM unveiled an update today to the ARM Cortex M0 MCU. It's the ARM Cortex M0 Plus, the world's most energy-efficient microprocessor. NXP Semiconductors and Freescale have already licensed it and plan to produce it. A 1mm by 1mm 32-bit processor that draws a third less energy than the previous 8 and 16-bit processors that ARM had designed. In fact, they claim it draws virtually no power when in sleep mode, and with the proper battery setup, could have a battery life measured in years, depending on how you use it, obviously. According to the BBC, it'll sell for around 13 to 20 pence, so that's, 25 to 50 cents, roughly, U.S. dollars, a little bit less than that. Lots of talk in their press releases about the Internet of Things. That's the idea that the Internet just kind of moves into all the things around us. Loyd, you said you talked to ARM at GDC a little bit about this.
Yeah, their M0 line has been their embedded processor line, which is used in devices. Not you're not going to it's not going to show up in a phone or a tablet. It's going to show up in these devices, which may or may not be connected. I mean, you have embedded devices all around you in your flat panel monitor, in your TV and your stereo system, even in your refrigerator and things like that. They aren't necessarily connected, but it sounds like ARM has some ambitious plans in terms of making this making a connectivity play with this processor. It'll be interesting to watch.
Do we know? We were trying to speculate. Obviously, things with big screens and big power requirements, not the best for this, but they did mention Bluetooth and other wireless access being a possibility to go along with these. They're incredibly tiny.
Right.
You could just blow them around like dust. What do you have a sense of what kinds of devices we might see this end up in?
Well, I'm thinking about some of these plug cloud devices that we've seen. Those might be a good fit for that. I recently installed one of those Nest thermometers. Have you seen these things?
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, they're so imagine if you had multiple devices like that around your house, not necessarily connected to power, but you wanted it connected via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or something like that. You could create a really neat little mesh network that would only wake up when it needed to talk to something and could last. The battery life could be quite a long time.
See, the thing I'm running into with the problem with this is if you have Wi-Fi antennas or you have the 3G antenna, LTE antenna, any of that stuff in there, it ends up eating a lot of the battery life. But on the other hand, since the processor is using less, maybe it won't be as perceived as problematic. But if you with Loyd's example of those cloud servers, the ones you can actually have in your house, that I think is a great one because you want that thing on all the time. You want to be able to access that from anywhere. So instead of seeing your electric bill shooting up because you're using a serious computer, you can use something with a really this is really tiny. This is not going to cost that much money per month to pay. So if you want something that's always on, this might be great for that.
Is this going to finally bring us the internet-connected coffee machine that's worth dealing with, or is that just a dream that only appliance makers have?
I think this is we'll go more into battery-operated devices. I don't see this as in necessarily stuff connected to wall power, but yeah. I don't want an internet-connected coffee maker anyway. So
if only they could figure out proper ways to do power line and networking. So there was when you're on your own network at home. If you just plugged in, that's the way. Because that's the real difficulty of all those things. Well,
and Loyd, you're right. The Internet of Things is more about, the stuff I have around me that I can pick up and carry with me is Internet connected than, large, like refrigerator size things. Not that my coffee maker is refrigerator size. I do like my coffee. Let's finish up with an announcement from Walmart today. Starting April 16th, in more than 3,500 Walmarts, you'll be able to bring your old DVD or Blu-ray discs into the store. So you walk or drive over to your local Walmart with a box full of discs, and they will be added to your Vudu movie collection. That's Vudu that's owned by Walmart, so you have to have a Vudu account. But they will be ultraviolet enabled, so you'll be able to play those movies once they're uploaded, or enabled really, on any ultraviolet authorized service like Flickster, for instance. It will only cost you $2 to take your DVD and turn it into an ultraviolet file. Or if you'd like to upgrade that DVD to high def, you can actually have your ultraviolet file made HD for $5.
I heard you guys talking about this on Frame Rate this morning.
Yeah.
And it was discussed that schlepping over your DVDs could be a silly thing. I'm thinking for a lot of people, this is still okay. Like there, you bring your DVD. You have it. That's what 720 by 480. So you got crappy resolution already. For $5, you get HD. And you instead of going, does this connection work? Does this work? Does that work? You actually get to talk to a human being. So I'm thinking for a lot of people, this might be okay. If you have a massive DVD collection and you want to actually get all these things, it's going to be a problematic thing to actually bring it over. And if you're really tech savvy, you think, this is insane. I should be able to get a code because I can do this myself. Why would I bother?
Well, and if you're tech savvy, why would you bother even getting a code?
Right.
You just use Handbrake.
You just rip your own stuff.
Right. This is not for the tech savvy. One of the cool, I think this has interesting potential because if you have a DVD and a Blu-ray or Blu-ray and you're watching it at home, you just stick the disc in. But if you're traveling and you want to see your same movie, I mean, it'd be cool if you pay the one-time fee and you get access to it anywhere with your handheld device, right?
Yeah, in theory, right? There's some ways this makes sense. I get that. So if I'm actually using this as an optional service where it's like, you know what, I have all these photos, but I don't want to spend time scanning them in myself. I'm going to pay a service to scan them in. It makes sense that way. Like, I don't want to spend the time using Handbrake to rip these DVDs, so I'm going to take it to a service that will do it for me. It's a little pricey for that, but it's not ridiculously out of hand, I suppose, especially with the upgrade to high definition. But what I see it as is an example of them making the market work in a way that it shouldn't. We don't have the choice, right? It is against the law for you to take your DVD and rip it yourself, even if you want to. Now, plenty of people do, but they're breaking the law. So they're holding us at gunpoint, saying you have to pay us this service. And then the other side of it is Ultraviolet doesn't work yet. It's buggy as crap, like most DRM systems have been in the past. So maybe they'll fix that. In which case, I agree with you, Loyd. Like, the idea of being able to have a working copy of something available in the cloud all the time is fantastic. I love it in principle. But, you know, if all the people I know have used it on Flickster say that, you know, it times out, it doesn't work, it throws bugs, and that's where this comes at cross purposes. The folks who are saying, you know what, I don't want to rip this stuff for myself. I don't even know what ripping is. I'm going to take it into Walmart and get these copies. That's great. Are going to be the same ones who have no idea why their digital copy isn't working when the DRM fails or the internet connection messes up or something isn't compatible.
And then Walmart will try to sell them their Voodoo box or their televisions that already come with Voodoo, because that's going to work, Tom. Because that will definitely work, because that's what they will sell you.
Well, but you're going to come in and say, like, oh, you should buy this Voodoo box. Like, oh, but it doesn't work already. Why should I buy that box? It's just going to not work on that box.
That's old technology. That's why.
Oh, yeah.
I find it interesting that this happened just after Kaleidoscape lost its lawsuit that was filed against it for its DVD servers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting timing, isn't it? Yeah, we are definitely witnessing the bottom of the bell curve on the ridiculousness of 19th century copyright law, which wasn't even that well implemented in the first place, being applied to 21st century problems. It's very frustrating.
We call for a revolution soon, please.
If you know the number, please call. Let's move on to the news fuse. Want to see the new iPad? Well, you don't have to wait. Someone at the Vietnamese forum Tinte got a new iPad early, ran Geekbench, and not only put a video online, but found that the tablet comes with 1 gigabyte of RAM. The processor appears to have a clock speed of about 1 gigahertz, which is the same as the previous generation of iPad. Apple doesn't list memory or processor specs for the new iPad on its site, which is why everyone was dying to find out if there's actually a gig of RAM in the new iPad. And there is.
I think there's a typo in the news fuse. It's time for patent peace? So nice. According to an EU document, Motorola tried to get Apple to license Apple's entire patent portfolio to Motorola in exchange for access to Motorola's standard essential patents. Apple didn't go for that. The two companies also discussed settling their patent beefs after Google finished up buying Motorola. According to that same EU document, Apple says its refusal to license, again, its entire patent portfolio, which includes laptops and desktops and everything, that led to Motorola suing them.
Now, for what quite possibly is the sexiest news story of the day, Dell is going to acquire a security company. SonicWall. Not that you need any introduction to SonicWall, but it specializes in anti-spam network security and firewalls. Dell also gets its hand on 130 registered and pending patents. That's right, Dell only has one hand.
Sony's new Xperia Sola includes some new Sony tech that they're calling floating touch. The phone can detect your finger before you click on an item. Websites and apps will recognize your finger like a hovering mouse. So when you want to select something, then you tap. So this could probably be really good for Flash games. They require you to hover.
Oh, that's kind of cool, actually. I like that. It must be makeover season because Rdio just unveiled a new design. LA Times calls it iTunes meets Facebook, except the Facebook that's not being sued by Yahoo. You'll be able to drag and drop music to playlists, see what your friends are listening to, among other things. New look was unveiled, as you might expect, at a launch event at South by Southwest.
Both Google and Mozilla are working on Metro versions of their browsers. Now, Google told Mashable that the Metro version of Chrome will have touch support and would be based on the desktop version and not the Android version. Mozilla announced that the Metro version of Firefox will be as powerful as their desktop version. But Mozilla also dropped a really interesting thing here. They said the Metro versions of the browsers will only work if that browser is the default. So you have to switch your default if you want to access that. Yeah, but that's Microsoft's policy.
Oh, that is Microsoft's policy. They won't let something look like Metro unless you make it unless you replace their own browser.
That's what the post said.
Weird. Samsung announced on Facebook last night that Ice Cream Sandwich will begin rolling out to the Galaxy S2. Folks in Poland, Hungary, Sweden, and Korea get it first. They have access to the update right now. Samsung told Pocket Lint that UK customers will get the update next week. The Galaxy Note, Galaxy S2 LTE, Galaxy Tab 8.9, and 10.1 will all get Ice Cream Sandwich, quote, soon.
Soon. The Wall Street Journal reports Google and Facebook are facing a trial in the Indian courts today after earlier hearings failed to resolve complaints that the companies are not taking responsibility for user-posted content. India put in place regulations in 2011 that made web hosts responsible for the content uploaded by their users. The firms say that the regulations are incompatible with India's Information Technology Act 2008, which should protect them from liability where user-posted material is concerned.
The world will soon be a little safer to generate the creation of great works like 21 Jump Street the movie and Green Lantern. 23-year-old Richard O'Dwyer from Sheffield Hallam University in the north of England is being extradited to the United States over copyright infringement charges for running a linking site called TV Shack. The site never hosted content, but the United States claims Dwyer personally promoted links to infringing content. Home Secretary of the UK, Theresa May, agreed to O'Dwyer's extradition despite a 20,000-person-strong petition urging her to refuse consent. And with that, to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
Well, how could we pass this up today? Ars Technica has a very interesting article about mysterious hog farm explosions. The manure pits of Midwestern hog farms could power the universe soon if we can figure out why they're blowing up. Since 2009, 6 farms have blown up after methane trapped in an unidentified pit-topping foam caught spark. The foam is found in roughly 1 in 4 hog farms, and there's nothing you could do about it. Nobody knows why it's happening.
So the problem is the foam. Not everybody knows hog farms creates methane. It's this weird foam that's the problem.
Yeah, this foam that shows up on top is highly flammable. Everybody knows methane's around. If you've smelled a hog farm ever, it's pretty obvious. But this new goop that's showing up captures gases emitted by bacteria living in the manure, and then gathers in pits beneath the barns. And then this foam kind of percolates up out of it.
This just sounds like a great plot for like a sci-fi movie or a horror movie. You know, this
a really bad sci-fi channel movie. Yeah.
Yeah, the foam that causes explosions.
Don't disturb the bubbles, they say, because that's what releases all the methane in a short period of time, and then a very little friction can cause
with your bubbles.
With your hog crap bubbles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lessons to be learned. Life lessons.
Yeah, this is just crazy stuff. Dramatic rise in the agricultural use of so-called distiller's grain, a byproduct of alcohol and ethanol production, may be one of the reasons for this. So it's all that whiskey drinking and driving around with gasohol in your car that's causing the issue.
Right, because you don't want to even contemplate the hog farm smell. You're like, I'm just going to drink all day.
And drive around in my cheap gas guzzling car. Let's check the calendar.
Sure, let's do that. Firefox 11 is available for download a day early, although Mozilla is warning it's not a final build, and early FTP downloads are a server strain for them. Mostly it's incremental updates that includes importing from Chrome, Cloud Sync, and a Growl bug fix. The signs are up at Apple retail stores at 8 o'clock Friday. You can go ahead and get your iPad. Yes, 8 a.m.
Why didn't people just order it from the web?
That's what I did.
Okay.
Well, maybe they didn't want to. They want to be part of the excitement, Loyd. There's a lot of excitement out there. Online, not so exciting. In line, way more exciting. Stephen Elop from Nokia saying that Lumia is coming to China on March 28th, but no official word as to which models. Regulatory approvals point to both the Lumia 800 and the 710, and Gadget says the 610 can't be far behind. Nokia apparently is working with China Telecom and China Unicom in its Windows Phone era. Registration for Google's I/O Developer Conference in San Francisco starts at 7 a.m. Pacific, March 27th. Last year, it sold out in under 1 hour. General tickets cost $900. If you're a student or faculty, you get it's only $300, and you only get to get one ticket per person.
Time to see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
Jason from Connecticut called in with another example of a company that switched from Google Maps to Open Maps.
Hey guys, this is Jason from Connecticut. I was listening to show 454 when you were discussing the Google Maps change. I just wanted to let you know that geocaching.com has done the same thing, and they're using the OpenStreetMaps. And I will say it's not as good as Google Maps, especially when you want to look at a satellite picture. There is nothing from OpenStreet for that. They default you to MapQuest, which does not work anywhere near as well. Just my thoughts.
And we've talked previously about the reason that these companies are switching is because of the charges that Google has now put in place for large amounts of calls to the API. If you're just calling a few times, it's not going to charge you. But I think it's 20, 25,000 calls or more in a certain time period. The rates kick in, and they either block you or you pay. I still think what Google should be doing is joining the OpenStreetMap project. You can differentiate your Google Maps API by having those things like satellite overlay and Google Street View.
And that's something that the OpenStreetMaps, what Apple's been doing with it, it looks like they took the data and put their own skin over it, and that's what people are upset because Apple didn't. Well, they're not giving back the skin they're putting over it. They're supposed to do that if this is actually OpenStreetMap data. But that's the thing you can do with OpenStreetMap. You can put layers on top of it. Google could do it. Apple could do it. Anybody could do that. So if OpenStreetMap doesn't have this cool layer, you can just add it.
So how does this affect companies that I came across a game at GDC that where they actually overlay their virtual world on top of Google Maps on iOS as one of their platforms. So if Apple switches, are companies like that kind of screwed?
I think they would still be able to call the API, although you're right, it does get tricky when you're calling something that's on the phone like Google Maps versus calling something that's on the internet.
Right.
And that could cause issues. There are OpenStreetMap enabled apps like Yelp, for instance, right. that exist already. So, that's a really good question. How that would affect things, and I think this is the way it's going to go. I think more and more people are going to move away from Google Maps because of the charges. I guess if your game isn't hitting that maximum that Google Maps charges, you might be okay too. You could fly under the radar. All right, we got an email from Dave, the psychologist. Says he in fact, Dave has emailed for years and years on shows that I've done about using podcasting in class. We were talking about watching lectures on students' time and then having discussions during the class. Like most professors, he says, I've had a problem with people using social media tools in class while I am lecturing. So in a recent neuropharmacology class, I had the PowerPoint slides on one screen, and on the other screen, I put up a live Twitter feed with the hashtag Sci3506. I would lecture and now and then check out the Twitter stream. Now, most of the comments were your standard snarky ones, which I quite enjoy, and I wondered if this was not a great idea. After class, the people who were using Twitter talked to me about the experience. They all said roughly the same thing. They paid more attention than usual, one assumes, in order to come up with good snarky lines, so I may do this again in some classes.
So, in other words, turning social media into an actual social experience results in better interaction.
Yeah, it's in other words, he embraced it instead of forcing it away. It's
right.
Great idea. Thank you, Dave, as always. And Loyd, thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
My pleasure. It was a good time.
Let folks know again where they can find your blogs and the name of the new one and all that stuff.
Okay, my tech blog is at www.uncertainty.com, spelled like the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, and my personal blog is at improbableiinsights.com.
You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv. And you can find our subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. Randall Bennett joins us tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Colin's back. I mean, Rock God is back. You might have to change your name.
I hope you
Thanks,
don't mind that you're now Rock God.
Later, Rock God.
Thanks, Rock God.